Hi, welcome. So I'm glad that you can join me today. I have a guest, Fran Gallaher. I'll tell you more about her in a moment. First, a special hello to my listeners in Johannesburg, South Africa. I see you every week, and I'm just so grateful that you support the show in this way. It's exciting to me to know that it's of interest to you. And if you have any topics you're interested in hearing about, you just let me know because the show is for you. So let's get to my guest, Fran Gallaher. I'll tell you first how I met Fran on TikTok. I noticed her videos and I follow people who do spirituality videos. And I contacted her and she contacted me. And next thing you know, she's on the show. So I'm really excited about it because Fran is an intuitive leadership coach and she works at the intersection of spirituality, psychology, and the practical. Fran assists executives of seven-figure businesses to make better decisions using the power of intuition to assess critical and otherwise inaccessible information to drive innovation, increase confidence, and avoid leadership fails. Who doesn't want that? Fran uses her own intuition to bring through information for her clients to establish rapport quickly, to shorten the coaching process, and make it extraordinarily personal, powerful, and most importantly, effective. Fran's been a featured speaker for the facilitated programs for the Mayo Clinic, the program in intuition from the Kaiser Institute, the Tennessee Hospital Association, and Banner Health. Her clientele includes a diverse range of accomplished individuals, including physicians, corporate executives, and business leaders. So, Fran, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Ivory. I'm so pleased to be here.
Well, I've been looking forward to it very much because I'll just tell you, if most of you are listening and maybe you want to go on YouTube as well and take a look, because this woman, Fran, shines a lot of light. And that's one of the reasons I was so excited to have her on the show. You can just look at her and see her radiating light. I like to have people on who are lights in this world. Well, let's jump into this, Fran. Share a little bit about your journey to becoming an intuitive leadership coach.
Well, we're going to go the long way, okay?
Okay.
When I was a child, I saw non-physical beings. There was a knight who stood outside my bedroom door. And from earliest memory, I remember him, and I know no one else could see him, but I don't remember the day I realized I was the only one who could see him. And my mother must have been suffering from depression. I'm not really sure, but she put me and my next youngest brother in a playroom most of the day. And I wasn't allowed to talk with her or ask her questions. So I couldn't check out whether there was a knight outside my bedroom door or not. And luckily, because I had no one to tell me otherwise, I continued to see him and believe him until we in him and believe in him until we moved from that house. So, as I got older, I actually thought I was stupid because I didn't think the way other people thought. I remember, I think I might have been good at math, at arithmetic, and I remember long division, and I would know the answer, but they would say, you have to show your work, and they thought I was cheating. So I ended up with the belief that I was no good at math, which I now question. But it's been a long road. My mother ended up being very, very destructive toward me. So I thought that if I just got rid of my emotions, that wouldn't hurt and nothing could hurt me. So I denied my emotions, my intuition, all of it until I was in my mid 20s. And I turned to that because I had nothing. I was an empty shell of a person. You can't deny your emotions. I discovered that the hard way. And as I rehabilitated my intuition, I discovered that that's like bringing a backhoe into your garden when you really need to clear things, you know? To get at the intuition, you have to go through so many layers of conditioning and you have to make friends with your emotions. And by the time you are pretty well connected to your intuition, you've cleared a lot of ground.
That is so true. And I'm going to tell you, that's not an unfamiliar story about the math people thinking, not being able to show their work and then not being able to think, well, how did I get that? And then thinking they're bad at it. Like that is quite common with psychics.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really great to hear.
So that's very interesting. So that's that explains a lot to me. I mean, it actually gave you kind of a confusing start when you didn't have anybody to confirm whether what you were seeing was real, but you had to sort of sort that out over a long period of time. That does make it more difficult. What brought you to the point where you were inspired to start Really Flourish?
Well, thank you for asking that. There's a piece of my story I left out, and that is that my friend's mother became my mentor when I was 13. And she insisted on teaching me things about metaphysics. And I tried so hard to not listen to that stuff. But she taught me many, many things. I still remember I was 13. I had these thick lenses, I had braces, I had crazy long hair that I didn't know what to do with. And she said, "Darling, once you've taken a second lover, you need to learn to call all of them darling." And of course, I didn't even know what she was talking about. I didn't have no stinking
Like, I'm
first
13,
lover.
ma'am.
But that she taught me a little bit about the School of Metaphysics in St. Louis. And when I got to Denver, back then we had the white pages. I looked up the School of Metaphysics, and they had one in Denver. I went there for a little while, not long, but it got me into it. And somewhere along the way, I became a technical writer. I wrote step-by-step user's guides for hardware and software, which usually blows people's minds because it's the opposite of intuition. But it taught me a lot about uh, logic and a step-by-step approach. And so I wanted to develop a business where I would teach meditation and intuition and other spiritual things in a step-by-step approach. So I started with one business. That one did not make it. And I persevered and started Really Flourish. And I've been at it ever since.
I understand that need to be organized. As a person who sees angels and spirit her whole life, I'm also very logical and I like step by step. I make everything step by step. So I'm the kind of person who would appreciate that very much. How do you think that your approach differs from more traditional coaching methods?
Well, I think more traditional coaching methods rely so much on the client sharing their story and explaining things, whereas somewhere in the beginning of a session, I start telling the client about themselves. And first of all, it knocks their socks off usually. It impresses them, it establishes rapport, and they're ready to hear whatever else I have to say. So we move so much more quickly than coaching or therapy. We 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 get done. I mean, sometimes it's to my detriment. One woman one time she said this was worth 8 sessions with my therapist, and then she never came back. So
But that's
I
okay. It clears room for
yes,
the next people who need you desperately.
there you go. Yeah.
And I do believe in that. I love that you also have a background in psychology. It gives you a very grounded approach when it comes to intuition. And I know I always felt like that's something I brought. So that's one thing I was so excited about with you was that you have that as well. So something you mentioned to me before was you have something called the Shine program. What is that?
Shine is the program in intuition for unconventional leaders. And I believe that a little bit of intuition is usually what makes a leader. Not a promotion, not a title, but knowing just a little bit more about what might be happening or might be in line to happen, I think puts a person into the position of leadership, sometimes whether they like it or not. And that's what I mean by unconventional leaders. I mean people who they've always known things, but they didn't trust it. And my step-by-step approach just really makes it doable for people. I teach intuition. I establish a couple of what I will call truths, baseline concepts that make a difference. And then I teach intuition using 3 prompts that I continue to use all the time, and my graduates say, in fact, I spoke with a graduate this afternoon, and she said, I use pieces of your program every single day.
And that feels good, doesn't it?
It does, it does. So Shine starts next week, but I do have, oh no, I left it. I didn't bring it into this room with me, but I have a special code, and it is, I believe it's Angel 11. And maybe I can get it to you and you
If you
could put
get
it
it
in
to
the
me,
show
I'll put
notes.
it down in the notes of the show and all the places that it's posted. So no problem.
So your listeners can get $500 off the program. It starts next Tuesday, and I'd love to see some of your listeners there.
Oh, that's very kind. Thank you so much.
You are
Who do you
welcome.
who do you feel that the Shine program is especially designed for?
For people who feel that they've had an inkling about their intuition, but they haven't learned how to systematize it so that they can trust it. And then they might need um, a cohort, what I call, it's a joke, but I call it your psychic friends network. And it's where you have people you can say, hey, when I look at this, feel into this, listen for this, I get this or that. What do you get? Because that's what I had, Ivory. I don't know if you had that, but I had lots of friends along the way who were, the two of us would become what my guides told me were the eyes and ears of God when there's two of us sensing into something or three of us. It's so powerful.
I call that a spiritual tribe. I did not have it for a very long time and it made it difficult. So I finally started creating it for myself and I definitely have it now. So I agree with you. It's imperative to have that kind of support. So, how does the Shine program help leaders integrate their intuition into their decision making process?
Well, one of the things I tell people is that in a corporate setting, you're better off not talking about what you feel.
Mhm.
You might want to use the word sense. My sense is, or I worked for a brilliant ophthalmologist many years ago when I was a kid, and he would say the question comes and dive into various forms of creative speculation. And so I think learning how to share your vision, your sense of things without compromising yourself from the get-go is one of the things. Then I always teach that unless you're in a crowded theater and you hear in your head, get out now, most of the time there is some time to reflect. And so in a corporate situation, we want to make sure that we're never relying solely on intuition, that we bring intuition into the mix and include it with logic and data.
I have some experience with that, and I couldn't agree with you more. Oh my goodness. You also have an energy clearing process, and I think that's this month, correct?
It is, it's later this month. I believe it's the 26th of September, could be the 27th. I should have brought a cheat sheet. I'm staying with a friend right now, and I'm a little all over the place. I've been moving, so, but we'll put it in the show notes.
Yeah. Anything that you didn't have with you or want to be included, we'll put in there.
Thank
So
you.
is that what's called foreign energy?
Absolutely. So I think that your listeners who are exploring their intuition probably also realize that they are empaths. And what I teach is that, yes, empaths feel other people's feelings, but the more important thing is that when we feel other people's feelings, we may take those feelings on and be unable to distinguish them from our own. But even more importantly, we may take on the agenda or the priorities of the person we are close to. And that's why so many empaths are not successful. We're the best helpers and we're the best support team you could ever get. But how do we develop enough self-interest and healthy boundaries to make it to the finish line, right? I see you smiling. You know what I'm
I am.
saying.
It's like, wait, is that really what I want, or is that just what they want? I know exactly what you're saying, and that's brilliant. Oh, so how does your workshop, this foreign energy workshop, help participants clear that other people's energy from themselves?
Well, first of all, I talk about the nitty-gritty of the method by which people often uh, take our energy and infect us with theirs. And flattery is a really clever method that some people use, as well as a surprise attack. Just that out of the box. There are certain people, their personalities. As soon as you say hello to them, they're at you. And it might be a joke. That's what they'll say it is. I'm thinking of a boyfriend's daughter who saw me after I hadn't seen her for a few years, and I was wearing something unusual for a photo shoot, and she came in and took one look at me and said, "Nice house clothes." And it was a nice little passive aggressive dig, right? So, but there's an exchange of energy in that moment. So the method that I use was designed by a Boulder RN, and she's also a Qigong practitioner. And she designed this with the help of Archangel Michael and Archangel Vidar. And I don't actually do the clearing. I just act it out according to the principle of as above, so below.
Mhm.
The archangels and a team of high beings, they do the energy clearing and I act it out. And whatever that may sound like to your listeners, I have people who never question how I do it or what I'm doing. They just are thrilled that it works.
Yeah, it's about the results.
Yes, yes.
Sometimes I feel silly with some of the things that I'm presenting to people that I know will help them, empaths particularly, because I remember how silly I thought it was when I first heard about it, but I always will try it and it works. And so I stick with it, and so, yes, I'm going to pass those on to people and they don't question it. They really don't question it. It's interesting.
No, not when there was a client, he's given me permission to tell a little of his story. His life was pretty ruined by a child he and his wife adopted who went down a path of crime and addiction. And he had given up on this young man, and his marriage had ended, and he was trying to move on in his life, but he just couldn't. He wasn't able to be happy. And I did the energy clearing, and I had in the process I use an open door or an open window, and this wind came in and it shot around the room and went out. And his life changed from that moment on. He remarried, and every time I see him, he just has this big giant smile, and he always gives me credit in that session that day that it let him let go of the sorrow and the guilt and the pain and move on to have a happy life.
Did it surprise you how powerful that gust of wind
Yes.
was? I could
Yes. Yes. Another woman, she came to me after she had 2 years of neck pain from a car crash,
Mhm.
and she had gone to all kinds of practitioners, physical therapy, chiropractic. She tried medication, everything, but she nothing budged this pain. And even if it's only a momentary connection, it will be a relationship. So a collision an automobile collision is for that moment a soul level relationship. That person agreed at a soul level, and you agreed at a soul level to have that little party. I'm not saying you would agree to that at a personality level. I certainly haven't agreed to it at a personality level, and yet I've had a few of those. So I cleared her for that relationship. She got up out of the chair in my office with no neck pain, and I see her every once in a while, just in social situations, and she never had another moment of pain after that clearing.
That's very powerful.
And I can't guarantee anything, just as I'm sure you can't.
Yeah.
But when people are ready, there are forces that are ready to help us because we're not meant for unhappiness here, I don't think.
No, and it kind of reminds me of when I'm getting ready to do an angelic session with somebody. If they are really open to it and really ready for it, like the power of the amount and the power of the angelic energy that enters the room is significant. And I always
Oh,
smile because I know it's going to be a wonderful session and it's going to change them in some positive way. So it is true, like your angels know. They know that you are ready to accomplish something, you're ready to put something behind you, and they're ready, they're there and they want to help. No matter who's doing the work, I'm not saying that's just me. I'm sure it's true for you as well.
right, right. I think any effort to make this world a little bit of a better place is rewarded and supported by the guides and angels. They're thrilled when we do something in a positive direction.
They are. It could be just person to person. It could be on a larger scale. It doesn't matter as long as you're just trying to be a positive force in the world. I don't want to forget to get to your business insights because you have a lot of experience. So, how can leaders effectively blend intuition with traditional business strategies if they want to achieve greater success?
Well, actually, I wrote a LinkedIn newsletter post about this today. So if your listeners want to look for Fran Gallaher on LinkedIn, you can get just a little more of this, of what I'm going to tell. But pausing to not know is one of the most powerful things any of us can do because we think we have everything figured out. Or, we may be overwhelmed, but we don't really stop to pause with the not knowing. So I was on the faculty, as you mentioned, of the program in intuition from the Kaiser Institute. And I got to learn from other faculty members who were some of the most gifted intuitives I've ever met. And I would tell somebody something out of the blue, like, 20 years ago, your husband needs to get involved in the solar energy business. And I'd be like, I don't even know what that is. And then they would say, well, oh, well, so and so told me that too. That's what I was talking about earlier, where we have others who are bringing through information too. So it's not quite so weird. But pausing to not know is humbling. It's not easy to do, but just checking in, I wonder if there's any other information that would be helpful. And you're going to have to develop a bit of a reputation with your team members, your colleagues, in order for you to be able to pull that off again and again. But the first few times, they may not even notice that you just said, well, my sense is that the date should be such and such, or I think we should go with the higher figure, or I think we should provide them with blank, or whatever it is. But over time, your insight will be valued.
It's kind of like anybody else in your life. I mean, I think sometimes your family is the last to really acknowledge your spiritual gifts. And so people at work, a lot of them are very conservative, depending on the business you're in. And I think that it's good to tread lightly in the beginning and just not freak people out because sometimes I'll say things and I wasn't planning to say it. I didn't know I was going to say it. And people will be like, how did you know that? Or what? And I am shocked that it came out of me. So that's
Oh,
hard.
right. Yeah, I sometimes don't know. My client and I hear what I had to say at the same time. I don't know ahead of time, but there's that shocking quality is sometimes a relief to the shock as well. And it will be like, oh, of course. Intuitive information often has that feel, and we don't know where it came from.
Mm-mm. And there's got to be something more in there too, because you can have the thought, but what makes you say it? I wonder about that. Like, what makes us say it? I wonder if it's our angels or guides saying they need to hear this. I don't know, but it certainly happened to me more
May
than
I
once.
tell a quick story about that?
Please tell a story. I love stories.
So, and may I use an obscenity in this story, or would you prefer that I
Probably
clean it
better
up?
you don't.
Okay. So there was a psychic fair, and I was one of the practitioners, but no one came because the organizer didn't get the word out. So I just decided to give a session to one of the other practitioners. And as soon as I did, this very effeminate guide came in, and he said to me, of course, she couldn't hear him. He said, she wouldn't have financial problems if she didn't buy all those stupid effing purses, all those stupid little effing purses
About you?
about this client,
Oh,
this
about the
person
guy.
I was giving a session to. And so I was like, I can't say that. I had just met her. I said, hey, would you like me to give you a reading? And so he kept saying it, and he was sort of taunting me, he was like really in my awareness. And it dawned on me that I could say, there's a client here who is saying you wouldn't have financial problems if you didn't buy all those stupid little effing purses. And she said, I know. I I just spent all week organizing them because I'm going to sell them. He's right. They are stupid and they're too little. You can't even put a phone in them. I don't know what kind of purses these were.
I know
And
I
then,
don't own them, but I know exactly.
oh, do you? And then that same client came in. I had this grandma, and I knew she was a grandma because I met her with her grandson. And then she came back to see me, and she looked like a grandma. She had silver hair in a little bun and silver rimmed glasses and a white eyelet shirt and ankle length denim skirt and white socks with Birkenstocks. And this client was in my face saying, tell her to go ahead with the threesome. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And here she is, a grandma. So I did the same trick. I said, there's a guide here who says to go ahead with the threesome. And she said, oh, good. It's in another state, so nobody will know me there. So I could give that a try.
That's an interesting one. That has not happened. Not for me. Oh my gosh. That's hilarious. So you're a business owner yourself, obviously. How do you personally balance running your company with your own practice of intuition and energy work?
I'm a little embarrassed to say this, but I sleep more than I'm not one of these people who brags about how they only need 4 hours of sleep or whatever. I think I sleep more. I have to have more downtime. I take naps. I have to take care of myself. And one of the things I learned long ago is that I cannot do sessions. The last time usually that I will do a session is 6 p.m. in whatever time zone I'm in. Because if I go too long, my temperature will drop and I will go into shock. I can't play around with this. You have that too?
Yeah, if I do too many sessions in a day, if I do too much of a certain kind of session, I just sort of, all my energy drains and I almost faint. And then I have to sleep for a number of hours and then I'll sleep through the whole night. And if I go too far with that, I'll get sick for a week or two. So I have to be the same thing. I have to really closely manage my energy, and it's a balance.
Yes. And I want to back up for a second because I've mentioned a few readings. I rarely give what are called straight readings anymore. I when I was participating in the program in intuition, they taught me coaching and they made me a coach because the founder, the late Leland Kaiser, he was a professor of organizational development and design. And that's where coaching came from. Your listeners may know that. And so I like coaching because it's a shared responsibility. It's not me telling the person. I mean, I still will bring through information. I will always do that. But it is a discipline that allows me to listen more and to not be the authority about anybody else's life because they're the authority. And I make the mistake sometimes, I did a reading recently, and first, one of the things is that sometimes people they want more, 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 more. And, um, you know, I, my work depends upon the guides and angels. And if they don't have more for me, there's no more for me. Sorry. It's not like you can't just stick in a quarter and expect stuff to come
Turn on the
out.
faucet.
Right, right. So I do want to make it clear that my business was formed and my work and my personal life was revolutionized by coaching.
And I understand what you're saying, very much so, like having that be a collaborative process with your client. That is really a great way to go about it. So if I know there's business leaders out there, business owners listening right now. If they're just beginning to explore their intuition, what kind of advice would you give them other than what you've already mentioned about a professional setting?
The first rule is that the intuition is an insight. It is the aha moment that often appears without any precursor, without any uh, a basis for the intuition. I'm not saying always, because if you've worked a problem for a while and then you go take a shower, everybody knows that that can trigger an aha moment, which is, again, the intuition. But for the most part, the intuition itself is going to appear out of the blue. So I say that if you're walking down the street and you get the feeling that you should walk on the other side of the street, you will not have a reason to do so until Wile E. Coyote drops an anvil on the spot where you would have been. So when I say that the intuition is not rational, I'm just saying that it is not preceded by reason, but rather it is an independent insight. And that doesn't mean, on the other hand, that it is irrational. It just, again, doesn't have reasoning that is its basis necessarily. Whereas logic has reasoning. A, then B, then C. And then again, intuition will leap to Q. So the first thing is that the intuition is not rational. The second thing that you're going to learn is doubt is a hobby. If you want to doubt your intuition, you will have plenty of opportunities and reasons to doubt it. You're going to have to slow your process down enough to at least one time experience your intuition clean and clear and by itself before the doubts come piling on. And then you're going to have to learn to set aside those doubts. Because I don't care if you want to paint your bedroom pink or blue, you will have doubts about whether you should paint it the other color, right? We
Sure.
have to be bold sometimes. And the third thing is to learn to distinguish between the voice of criticism, the judge within that Freud named the superego, and intuition. Intuition is always neutral, and the superego makes us feel small and less than. So, two different felt experiences. And if you learn those three things, you're going to be pretty well set up to learn the next three things.
That does sound like a great foundation. What kind of transformation can participants expect after they complete your Shine program or after attending that energy clearing process workshop you have?
Well, with the Shine program, they're going to develop their relationship with their inner self, with their core. And they're going to be able to start to recognize their conditioning. And I'll tell you, I'm still not done examining and refuting the conditioning I received. You know, a friend of mine, I was talking about where I'm going to live next, and he said, this time you need to make it about you. You've put everyone else first in your life for your entire life. Now it's about you. And I would say that that's what my program is about, is let's get cozy with ourselves and get connected with ourselves. The same is true of the energy clearing process, although that is less in depth. And it's a little more of a system that you just use, you follow it. It's a little bit of a cookbook kind of thing. And you will get information. I love doing the energy clearing process because I usually get additional information while I'm doing it. So if somebody wants a quick return on their time and money, then I would say the energy clearing process. If they want something a little more in-depth and lasting, I would say the Shine program. And heck, you could do both.
Yes, why not? Get all of those benefits. So, for those interested in your programs or your workshops, what is the best way for them to get involved in them, Fran?
Well, you can contact me. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can find me on TikTok, Fran Gallaher. You can go to my website, reallyflourish.com, and you can schedule, if you're on um, TikTok, you can go to my link tree on my profile page and schedule a complimentary 20-minute session. I lie that it's not really 20 minutes, it's more than that, but I'm just trying to have a little bit of boundaries. And then you can also find the complimentary session link on my website, or you can contact me and I'll set you up.
Okay, and I'm going to put all of that contact info on this page, on the information page for both podcasts and for YouTube, so you'll see it there. If there's somebody listening right now who's on the fence about working with you, what would you say to encourage them to take that leap?
Well, I think sitting on a fence is really uncomfortable because I did it once when I was a kid. I I was climbing a chain link fence and I was headed over and I had some short denim shorts on. I was about 12 or something, and the fence ripped my shorts. And I was hung by my shorts on this fence, and my friend was laughing and making fun of me. So sitting on a fence is not comfortable. The second thing is I was wondering, I kind of glossed over this. Not only did I attempt to deny my feelings and ignore my intuitive nature, I became a skeptic. So I was a skeptic for a number of years, and I thought a lot of this stuff was hooey. So now I am more like a convert. And I think a lot of people are concerned that they have to be a true believer to do any of this. Absolutely not. I don't think true believers are even attracted to me and my work. I think that I welcome skeptics. I think as we go in life, we want to have three piles. The I know this for sure, I don't know this for sure, and I'm curious about this in the middle. So we want our middle pile to increase as we go along. And I want some middle pilers in my program. I'd love to assist you in finding your process, the way your intuition works. One of the things we'll be doing is exploring the inner senses to see what inner senses are awake in you. You know, Woo is everywhere. And the doors, they were named after the book, The Doors of Perception by Aldous Huxley, which was about opening the inner senses. So this isn't just my little world or your little world. It's a world that's behind a lot of what is in our world now.
It definitely is. And I can relate to the being the skeptic. It's weird to be in this field, and I'm a skeptic, and I still can be, but I think it's okay to be a bit of a skeptic. But I hear what you're saying. Like, it's good to be not be a total believer. Those are the ones who need you the most. They really
Yes.
are. So, Fran, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It has been a delight. I just enjoyed having you on so much.
Oh, Ivory, I've been so honored. I've listened to your podcast, and to be a guest here means a lot to me. So thank you so much. And thank you to your listeners, for those of you who gave us a little of your time and attention. I'm grateful.
I know that they got a lot out of today. I'm going to tell you briefly. Tune in next week. The topic is your angelic team. I'll be talking about the types of angels, guides that are on your team. Who's with you? Why are they with you? What kind of things are they helping you with? How long are they with you? And I hope that that helps you, those of you who are here, to tune into your angels and communicate with them more. And I realized I'd never talked about that in 3 years doing this incarnation of my show. I've been doing a show for 8 or 9 years now. So before I leave, may your angels surround you. May your angels protect you every moment, every day of your life. I'll see you next week.